across England and Wales, 19% of landlords decided to sell up in the last 12 months. This is more than double the 8% who actually purchased. And looking ahead, 41% of landlords are thinking of selling up in the next 12 months. And this is comparison to just 6% who are thinking of buying. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 key factors as to why buy-to-let investors are selling. But also stay tuned because I want to share with you the silver lining for those buy-to-let investors who decide to stay in the market. So first up, and to no surprise, we have the Renters' Rights Bill by Labour. Of course, formerly known as the Renters' Reform Bill by the Conservative. And we know that Section 21 is by far the biggest concern to landlords. This is the no-fault eviction, which is going to be removed. And landlords are shaking in their boots. But should they? Well, I'm going to say if you have properties in less desirable areas, then you should probably be concerned. Otherwise, I don't believe you have much to worry about because you do have the adjustment of Section 8. So 56% of landlords are saying that this is the reason they're exiting the market. It's far too much for them, and of course, everything else that's included within that Renters' Rights Bill. And letting agents absolutely agree, with 66% of them saying that this will lead to a shrinking rental sector and landlords continuing to sell up because it's going to create tougher conditions, not only for landlords, but also tenants. And of course, the Renters' Rights Bill includes a number of other provisions, including but not exclusively, the conversion of AST into periodic tenancies, the right for renters to request consent to have a pet. There will be an end to bidding wars, rental bidding wars. The property ombudsman for every landlord needs to be signed up, but also a database for the government to hold. And how much of that data is going to be released to the public, we don't know. And the list goes on. And with over 170 legislation in the rental sector, it can be hard to be compliant as a private landlord. That's why we provided you with a tenancy health checklist, which you can download with the link on the description. The current Labour government is hammering private landlords with stricter EPCs. If you're not familiar with that, that's the Energy Performance Certificate, which at the moment you need to take out every 10 years and it's valid for that period of time. But they are proposing that this is done every time a new tenant is found or a new tenancy is signed. Now, with HMOs, they're also proposing that every time you rent a single room within the HMO, within the building, you also need to make sure that you update that EPC. With HMOs, they are proposing a 24-month transition period. And lastly, the government is proposing that tenants who are in those long-term leases have access to a valid EPC, and not only when the property is marketed or you have a new tenant. So for example, if a tenant is in a 3 to 4 year tenancy at the moment, if an EPC expires, the landlord has no need to upgrade that EPC. They are proposing that actually, regardless of whether you're getting a new tenant or not, and the tenant's in place, you need to update that. The same way as you do with a gas safety certificate or an EICR, which is an electrical certificate due every 5 years. And to no surprise, 52% of landlords cited this requirement as a reason to sell up, with almost 20% of non-compliant properties saying they would not invest in these requirements, leading of course to a shrinking rental property stock. And this leads us into Section 24 tax squeeze, introduced by the then Chancellor George Osborne, announced I think it was around 2016. Now if you're not familiar with this was the removal of the ability for landlords to deduct their tax from the interest that they paid on their mortgage. Now the best way I can explain this is by way of a typical story of Michael, a professional landlord, which I actually found online. So let's say that Michael was earning £110,000 per year from rental income and paying £27,000 on mortgage interest. Now, from the phasing of 2017 to 2020, which I believe was 25%, this could have had a huge impact on Michael and what he was left in his pocket. And this wasn't just a unique story. A lot of landlords were hit with this, of course, after 2020, because a lot of landlords had their properties on their personal name. The difference would be someone having a company, a limited company, whereby they continue to do that. And this naturally pushed a lot of landlords into a higher tax bracket, even if they were just breaking even or even perhaps even making a loss on their property portfolio. And that leads us perfectly into higher interest rates, which goes hand in hand with the introduction of Section 24. Now, that 2% buy-to-let rates that you could have seen prior to 2022 is a thing of the past. And with those Bank of England base rate going up to 5.25%, that is something that's coming down, but very slowly. In fact, a lot of landlords were being optimistic that going into 2025, they're going to see better rates. And we are, yet not as quick and as low as they wanted to. And a lot of landlords are coming off those fixed rates in the next few months. And so a combination of higher taxes, mortgage rates, but also stricter regulations have contributed to landlords selling up, scaling back from expanding their portfolio, but also just looking at other investments and diversifying. Now, if we look at the silver lining of all of this, for those landlords who do decide to stay in the market, we can see that there is a new data suggests that 79% of landlords are reporting strong demand for rental properties, with the Southeast seeing the highest level at 84%. And 75% of agents are saying that there is an increase in inquiries. Now, if we look at the average rent across England, we can see it's just above £1,400 per calendar month for 2024, and that's expected to grow in the future. Which brings us into capital growth in the UK. In fact, we see that there's going to be growth in 2025 as by Savills forecast of 4%. And if we look at over the course of the next 5 years, that's going to be over 20%. Now, what we can see is that the North East and also Scotland is going to see the biggest growth by 30%. And transactions are predicted to increase by 2028, driven by first-time buyers, and this is because of the rate cuts that I expected to see over the course of the next few years, improving, of course, affordability. And this brings us into rental growth. Now, naturally, after some strong increases over the course of the last few years, 30% plus in some regions of the country, this is going to start to slow down and align with income growth. Now, we can expect 17% rental growth over the course of the next 5 years. And understandably, the recent stamp duty changes by the Labour government, but also those affordability limitations going to have an impact on buy-to-let investors, continue to expand their portfolio, and also those cash buyers. Now, if you want to find out the true impact of regulations to landlords, make sure you watch my other video. And if you're a landlord watching this video, leave me a comment below. Let me know how you're adjusting to current markets as we go into 2025.